Groovy. So are you ready?
I am.
Awesome. And before we begin, I do have to pay homage and honor to the sponsor, which is me. So,
Good person to pay homage to. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, are you feeling stressed out, perhaps being overwhelmed by trepidation and other non-resourceful emotions coming your way? Then go ahead to guidedhypnotic.com and download your free guided hypnotic meditation. That's guidedhypnotic.com. All right. So we have an incredible guest here this afternoon, this morning, whatever the case may be. And you probably have read his book. If you're part of this audience, if you haven't read it yet, you will be reading it shortly. But allow me to introduce to you Mr. Bob Burg, co-author of the international bestseller, The Go-Giver, and a much sought-after speaker at sales and leadership conferences, is committed to inspiring the entrepreneurial spirit in us all. He shows that companies, both large and small, that conduct their businesses the Go-Giver way are not only much greater value to their customers, they're also significantly more functional and profitable as well. So thank you so much, Bob. Our paths have crossed multiple times. We've spoken at similar events, but we never had a chance to really chat and get to know each other. So thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your most valuable asset, your time.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So share, a little bit of the philosophy of the Go-Giver, because while it sounds very like common sense when we hear it, oh yeah, of course, yeah, we should always give, but there's more depth to this. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, how did you come up with this philosophy or model, and how can we apply it?
Well, years ago, I had a book out for salespeople and entrepreneurs called Endless Referrals. The subtitle was Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales. And it was really a how-to book, which shared a system, what we call the Endless Referral system, on how to really cultivate and develop know, like, and trust relationships with people so that they would want to do business with you, want to refer you to others. And I'd always, and the first edition of it came out back in the mid-90s. There have been 3 now editions of it. But I'd always enjoyed reading parables. And I think my first one I read was Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, and then the Richest Man in Babylon, and you had the 1 Minute series by Blanchard Johnson. There have been great ones, Chris Widener's, and lots of fantastic parables. Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton, Go for No, and so many great ones. And I thought, what if we could take the basic premise of Endless Referrals, that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust, which has always been my mantra over the past 35 years, what have you. What if we could put that in a story form? So I sort of asked, well, what is the essence of a person who's able to both quickly and sustainably cultivate those kinds of relationships? And it comes down to that they're givers. They're always focused on giving value to others. So it was sort of easy to come up with the name The Go-Giver. But the best thing I did for that book before it was ever written was to ask John David Mann, who's a brilliant writer and storyteller. I'm a how-to guy. I'm step 1, step 2, step 3, was to ask John to be the lead writer and storyteller. And so fortunately he said yes to that, and we collaborated. And that's really how The Go-Giver came about. The basic premise is really nothing more than that shifting your focus, and this is really the key, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more pleasant way of conducting business, it's actually the most financially profitable way as well. And not for some woo-woo way out there, magical, mystical reasons. It actually makes logical sense. When you think about it, when you're that person who can move your focus off yourself and onto solving other people's challenges and problems, helping them get what they want, bringing them closer to happiness as they understand happiness through your product, services, and everything else you do, people feel good about you. People want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to buy from you. They want to refer you and introduce you to others. So,
Mm-hmm.
it really comes down to that it's very logical, and it's the best business you can do to actually place that other person's interest first and focus on them.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think one of the things that are a valuable distinction, I believe, could also be it's not direct reciprocity always, that people notice when they're given. So it's not like, yeah, I gave to you, you give to me. It's like,
That's
it's
keeping
more
score. That doesn't tend to work.
right. Exactly. And I just want to make that distinction because I think sometimes there may be some people who are so busy focused on the reciprocity and not on the philosophy, and recognizing that distinction.
Yeah, well, you make a great point, because that's really not what we mean by giving. That's
Right.
trading. And, you can certainly do that to a certain extent, and you'll probably succeed, 4 inches on the 36-inch yardstick of success.
Right.
But you're leaving a lot on the table when your philosophy is trading.
Right. Absolutely. So how did you get into this? What was your career path that got you to this point? I mean, were you always a speaker and trainer, or how did you transition to that if that wasn't your original?
Yeah, I began in broadcasting, actually, first radio and then television, and wasn't particularly good at I was okay at radio. TV, I wasn't very good at it. And I graduated into sales. And the issue I had, though, was that I knew nothing about selling on a formal basis. And the training where I first started, you will say it was negligible, right? Which means non-existent.
And was it radio sales, like doing radio ads?
Yeah, it was radio and television, because it was owned by the same company that had both the radio and the TV station. So we sold both. But the training wasn't, didn't do it. Was more go in, tell them all about it, get them to sign, and get out of there. I mean, that was the, and so that didn't do a whole lot for me, and it really wasn't congruent with my value system. And so I floundered really for the first few months until I was in a bookstore and came across a section on selling, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but 40 years ago or so, that wasn't a big thing. You didn't see that like you do today. Plus, I'd never been in sales, so it wasn't something I'd have known to look for. Right? I had been in formal sales. So I remember picking up 2 books. One was by Tom Hopkins, and the other was by Zig Ziglar, 2 icons, certainly in the selling profession. And I would, after work, I would just go home, and until the wee hours of the morning, I would just read and study and take notes and highlight and underline and rehearse and learn. And within a few weeks, my sales really began to go through the roof. And that was very encouraging to me, because it was the first time that I really came to understand that if you don't know how to do a thing and want to know how to do it, just find out who else has done it and then model that. And so, in other words, if you follow a methodology or a system, you can pretty much accomplish within reason whatever you want to accomplish. To this day, I would personally define a system as simply the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. I think the key, Doug, is predictability, right? If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired results of B, then all you need to do is A, and continue to do A, and continue to do A, and eventually you'll get the desired results of B. And that's what I found. And once I had a methodology for selling that was, again, congruent with my values, it was lights out, and it was just a lot of fun. And I began to get into personal development and start reading all those great books that we all have on our bookshelves. And eventually from there, I became sales manager of a different company years later. And from there, I started teaching others what was working for me. And it kind of morphed into professional speaking and then writing. And as they say on Seinfeld, yada, 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 here we are today.
So talk about that transition from being sort of behind the stage, as it were, selling, you're selling advertising and that kind of stuff. You had some experience already behind the mic and so forth. how did that inspire you into doing this, like for others, like help training and speaking? Was that always a desire of yours, or was it a natural progression?
Yeah, I don't think it was a desire, only because I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know there was such a thing as professional speaking until I got into sales and started going to these different events and everything. And that's like, wow, this is really cool. Uh, I'd like to speak. I mean, I got nervous, and still to this day I do before every talk, but it was something I still enjoyed doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it seemed like a really great way to make a living. I enjoy teaching and also kind of performing, which is what being on stage is, whether you want to admit it or not. I mean, you're putting on a show up there. You're not just standing
Got
there.
to keep the audience engaged.
All right. And so, it was something I enjoyed doing and had a feeling I would. And fortunately, there were a lot of people from the people at the National Speakers Association, many of them who just served as wonderful mentors and people who just answered questions for me whenever I had them, and to lots of good people along the way. I was able to have a really fun career.
So how were you able to transition the mindset of selling advertising to selling yourself?
Well, first of all, after advertising,
Yeah.
I was actually selling another very high-end, expensive type of product. So it was good too, because the advertising was less expensive, and I mean, it's not inexpensive, but it's
Right.
less. And selling a high-end product gave me two kind of good experiences and different types of sales. But I was always entrepreneurial. So that was not an issue. It was a joy to be able to go into my own business where, I mean, ultimately the customer's the boss, but you are still the one that decides what you're going to do. I've never been I don't think I'm cut out to be a, corporate employee, especially when I don't feel the leadership is what I would see it as being. And, not that I didn't work for some good bosses, but I also worked for some real creepy ones, just not creepy, but lousy, ones, the command and control type. So I was always, I think, cut out more to be my own boss in terms of having a business. So yeah, that wasn't an issue.
Well, but the mindset of selling something else or someone else versus selling
myself as like selling my service and so forth.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly it's different. I think it's more that you're selling I remember Michael Beckwith's great book years ago, Selling the Invisible. Which could be with any service, but whether you're an accountant selling your services, a chiropractor, a lawyer, what have you. I mean, basically anyone who's in a business where we are the deliverer of the thing, of the product itself, we are selling ourselves.
And was that an easy?
It wasn't something that I felt was a difficult.
Okay.
Area. I mean, I knew it was basically more than selling even myself, although it is selling yourself. It was the results that the prospective customer or client would attain. So as long as my focus wasn't really on me, but it was on them, and I was sort of just the MacGuffin, if you will, I was just then that was fine.
Beautifully. I ask because in my world in coaching and working with coaches and speakers, oftentimes that's where there's a little bit of a hiccup, where it's one thing to sell something else or someone else. Sure. Now I'm selling myself, people have a different relationship with that conversation. So I love hearing
it also, well, you bring up a great point, because it also has to do with charging fees. Because sometimes, and we've all seen, I think, that it's easier to negotiate for someone else than it is for ourselves. But we can't let that stop us. We've got to learn how to negotiate for ourselves. And we've got to be able to first, in order to do that effectively, truly recognize our value. Mm-hmm. Truly recognize our value, because if we don't truly understand where we bring immense value to the table, we will allow ourselves to be negotiated on our fees. Right. And not only are we not getting what we want, but we're not having as much fun, as much joy, as much, and so forth. And so So it starts with that. And then, of course, we communicate that value by being able to see the results of that value through the eyes of our product or service, through the eyes of our prospective customer or client, rather, and how our product or service relates to solving their problems or satisfying their needs or what have you.
Well, and that brings it right to back to the philosophy of the Go Giver, where the focus on your outcome, on your client, your prospect, on the person you're communicating with, and not making it all about you, other than how can I serve even more? How can I add even more value?
Exactly.
Beautiful. So as a speaker and a trainer and an author, we're going to do a little timestamp here. How have you been dealing with COVID and this whole like shifting of the entire industry? I mean, I don't know about you, but all my speaking gigs were canceled or postponed.
Oh, mine too.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I mean, basically my heart breaks for the many people who, have, first of all, had to, just deal with everything about this.
Yeah.
Okay. From business to health to, everything. I've been very fortunate in terms of, I'm 62 years old, and over the last few years, I've really limited the amount of outside the state engagements I would take.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've limited it to 20 in a year. Okay, over the last few years, I never really enjoyed the traveling aspect of this business. I've enjoyed everything else. I love speaking, love getting to know the people there and my clients. Boy, have I just been so fortunate. But I've never enjoyed the getting on the plane, staying in hotels, the travel. So, as you get older, you're less willing to do some of those things you don't want to do. So I limited to. So mine that got taken off the books weren't anywhere near as many as a lot of friends of mine, colleagues of ours, of both of ours, that had a whole lot of bookings up there. And we're depending on that and so forth, and boom, 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 it just went away. So, I was fortunate in that area. By the way, I will say that COVID has inspired me now that I'm basically off the road. I don't think after this I'm going to travel. I've had so much joy and fun not traveling.
Right.
That I just, so now my business partner, Kathy Tajanel, and I, we hold live events in Florida, usually Orlando, though we might start doing it in Jupiter, my town as well. Yeah. But with Orlando, it's easier for the international people to come in, where we have 2-day events and we limit it to 25, 30 people. And it's a 2-day endless referrals, the Go Giver way of it. I'll still do those. We'll probably end up doing 10 of those a year, but that's not getting on a plane. Right. And it's a joy for me to be there. Instead of the big audiences, it's just small, intimate group. We get to know each other. That'll be a pleasure. But the rest of the engagements I'm just going to do, and we've already started booking them through just like this, with me doing a keynote for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it is, and just right through here. And I'll tell you, it's less money, and that's fine. No planes, no whatever, right. No hotels. So it's a pleasure for me. So it's not as as bad a situation for me as it might be for others.
Well, and the fact that you're able to you have the momentum doing the hybrid, as it were, being able to speak on camera and all that, because it's a different mindset speaking on camera versus in person as well. And I find that having that ability to do so certainly creates more opportunity. Because this is going to be, I think, part of the new way. I think there's, for a combination of reasons. One, some people are just like, hey, I'm just going to do it this way. And others, companies and organizations going, look, we're not going to fly our people all around because this has actually been working. And it saves them money, by the way, right? If you think about it, they don't have to send their people to a conference or so forth. I mean, there'll still be those events. I just don't think as many.
I think there'll be a hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any new plans, any new books, any new experiences that this has inspired as well?
Well, it's funny. Kathy and I had been working for the last year and a half on an online video course that we just released a couple weeks ago. And it's called Endless Referrals, the Go Giver Way. It's the same one that we do live, only it's instead of being interactive, obviously it's 9.5 hours of online learning. and
Wow.
I let all hang out, endless referrals, like go give her away. And so it took so long to get this done, much longer than it should have. We began calling it the never ending project, but it finally came to an end. And so we're so excited about it. And so,
Now, was that a gift of COVID because you had the time to drill down and complete it, or were you on course anyway at that point?
no, it was, well, on course would have been last October. It should have been done.
Okay.
So, but, but fortunately it finally got done. It just happened to be during COVID.
Oh, that's
But
beautiful. Now, have you noticed bringing in technology like networking and Zoom meetings, virtual networking, and new strategies? Have you added any sort of formulas because of technology?
I think it's more just being aware that that you utilize the different technologies as a way to serve the purpose itself. It's sort of like social media, when people say, well, is there a big difference creating relationships on social media than there is in person? Well, it's different only because in one you are in person, but the same principles still apply.
Right.
Nobody, what we say about the all things being equal, it's not that people do business with and refer business to those computers they know, like, and trust. It's that person. And so it's the person who's behind that computer. So, so when you are creating a relationship or what have you, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, what have you, it's still, you ask yourself the question before you tweet, post, pin, what have you, is what I'm about to click send on, is it more likely to add value to another person's life, or not? It's still all about the relationship.
Love it.
And so, and so I think it's the same with what we have going on now, all the new Zoom meetings. And I know people are meeting people and doing business through Zoom. They're just, it's the type of thing where now this is part of that new reality, if you will. And
Right.
once people begin to accept that it is, well, now it just is.
Right. And then people are getting creative on how they could utilize the technology to run the philosophy. So
Exactly.
what are some like little tips when someone is thinking about value add and how they know it's valuable? Like, because I think, sometimes, when it comes to information, sometimes, there's two schools around that. Some people think, well, it's just information. And then other people are like, oh, that's my information. And like, how do you support when you're training, the idea of how to present in a way that is a value add and done in that sort of mindset?
Well, I think first it's defining what value really is, because a lot of people, I think, mistakenly confuse price with value, or value with price, or they use them interchangeably, when really it's the difference between the two that dictates how successful you're really going to be. Because price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is, right? Value is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, information, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another human being that they will willingly engage or buy, exchange their money for, what have you, and be glad that they did, while you make a very healthy profit or are able to advance the sale or advance the relationship, what have you. The key, though, is always keeping in mind that value is always in the eyes of the beholder. It's not what we believe is of value about what we do or what we offer or what we say. It's not what we think they should find valuable. It's
Right.
what they find valuable. And the only way we ever know that is by asking questions and discovering that. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that they're adding value to another person's life or business or what have you by doing things in a way that they believe would be of value,
Right.
not discovering or determining whether that other person sees the value. Because remember, we all see the world through our own eyes. We also all relate to value or see value or understand value differently. What might make one person very happy, what they might find very valuable might make another person miserable or unhappy, or they might find to be not valuable at all. It's someone else that might be nothing, neither good nor bad. So it's always important that we're doing this from that other person's viewpoint.
Well, and I mean, again, it's simple but not easy to be focusing on the other person and look through their eyes, walk a mile in their shoes. And again, sometimes just that very act alone of thinking in those terms can help create an even more strong connection with your prospect or buyer, because they go, oh, you get me. Wow, you actually, I get it. Okay, wow, all right. I trust you now, because you actually took the time to think. The value could be just the thinking and the like, oh, wow, okay, trying to really empathize with the person you're communicating with and understanding what their needs are, which is huge. You know, I know that, you know, sometimes that can be very difficult when we're under stress, when we're feeling the pressure of, oh, you know, right now everyone's freaking out. You know, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it behooves us to stay present and really take that step back and see that other person that we're communicating with and where they're at. And you know, the work that you're doing and have done is tremendous, because I believe that does help businesses tremendously.
You make some fantastic points, really. And it is, you know, and a lot of times it's just, you know, listening and really looking to understand, and, you know, you focus on that other person, and, you know, really what does it do is it helps them to feel understood. And they have more faith in you and more, as you said, more trust. And that's really what it's all about.
And they're comfortable to say, okay, yeah, let's work together. And that's the thing too, is we're creating family bonds in so many respects. When we hire somebody, it's like going to a job. These are people you spend more time with when you're hiring someone and helping, and they're going to get in under your hood. They're going to start really getting to know you. They want to feel that it's okay to be vulnerable and say, hey, I'm not exactly where I'm at. Because I'm sure you've experienced that. Some potentially high performing salespeople think they know it all. And then when you come in and share some other perspectives, maybe they'll get a little defensive and want to show why what they do is the only way to do stuff. And that is limiting them from getting to the next level, for sure.
Yeah. You know, and it's so funny because the most successful salespeople, and I've seen this time and time again whenever I've spoken at an event, and the most successful salespeople, they're hungry to learn more. Yep. They're always the ones taking the notes. They're always coming up afterwards and asking the question. And, you know, they're humble. They want to learn. They're always, it's the middle ones. It's the somewhat successful ones. Right. They're typically the defensive.
Right. Where they hit a home run with one strategy and then they just keep applying that same strategy over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you and learn more about Go Giving and how to create that endless referral machine, how would one get in touch with you and do more with you guys?
The best way is really just to visit Burg, which is BURG.com, and they can scroll down, and, you know, everything's really there. That from where they can click on to get a chapter or an excerpt of any of the books to see if they like them, and then click through to Amazon if they do, if they'd like to. I have a video blog that I typically do about twice a week.
Oh, great.
And there's all sorts of information on the rest, from the new videos to pretty much everything.
Love it. So any final words of advice for entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial spirited people in overcoming some of these challenging times?
Well, I mean, I think it would apply to really any time. And I think of a lesson I learned years ago, and this was a couple of years after I'd gotten into sales, and again had some success, but I was now with this other company that had a very high ticket item, and I was in a deep slump and could not seem to get out of it. And I remember coming back to the office one time after really, you know, not having the sale occur, which was really due to my own ineptness, since it was a great prospect and they would have really benefited from it. And I remember this, he was an older guy who was not even in sales. He was, I think, in the engineering department, and he retired soon after. I didn't know him very well, but, and he didn't say a whole lot, but he was one of these people, whenever he did say something, it was typically very profound. And I think he saw me as someone like Joe in The Go-Giver, right? That young up-and-comer, somewhat successful, but not even close to realizing his full potential, and who really was just focused incorrectly, which would be very true. And he said, Burg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Burg, can I give you some advice? And I said, yeah, sure, please do. And he said, you know, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And I think that any salesperson, any entrepreneur, and if you're an entrepreneur, you are a salesperson. I think when we remember this, when we keep in mind that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the product or service, as important as those are. Great salesmanship is always about the other person. It's about those people whose lives you choose to touch. It's about those people whose lives will be better off because you were a part of it. And when we can keep that in mind, I think we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Dude, that is so true. You know, and so important that we stay present to that. And it also, the truth is whether or not you're in business, if you're a human and you have a pulse, you're in sales.
Yes,
So
indeed.
This applies to life. This applies to our interpersonal relationships with our friends, families, loved ones. So thank you so much for being a go-giver and being a servant leader, leading by example. You know, it's been my pleasure. I look forward to spending more time with you. You know, I'm down here in Florida. I'd love to.
I know.
Let's just like not make excuses. Let's just make lunch.
No, we have to at least get Dunkin' Donuts.
Right. At least, the very least. Well, thank you so much. It's been my privilege, my honor. I love you for who you are and who you aren't. And I look forward to more fun with you, brother.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you greatly.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Peace.